So bishop e2, this is the classical variation, orthodox variation. Now knight c6, d5, knight e7, this is all tried and tested moves in the classical variation. Let's go on to the 4 pawns attack, which is by name and by nature. So you'd expect 4 pawns to feature somewhere, and you wouldn't be disappointed. So knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, and then here comes the 4 pawns attack. So violent stuff. Now the Simish variation, Simish got into quite a few of the opening names. These early players could get their names associated. The roads weren't beaten down as they were today, so they could get the fame, the celebrity status of getting variations named after them. So Simish, for some reason, we should really look at some Simish games. Why was he such a special master to get so many names after him? So bishop e3, so it's with f3 and bishop e3. I used to play this variation a lot. Sorry, I was talking there. Let's rewind back here. So when black plays d6 and you play the move f3, reinforcing a centre, we get the Simish variation. So you'll see the common pattern in the Nimzo Indian Simish was, white wants to play this f3 move and get this nice strong pawn centre. So both in the Nimzo Simish, when white kicked with a3 quickly, and also now we see Simish's favourite little idea, this f3, coming to mind here in this different situation. So now let's have a look at the other names. There's a functional description given instead of a name in Walter Korn's modern chess openings, the fianchetto line with knight to queen bishop 3, which is knight to c6 in modern notation. Let's see if that's been given a name since, though. So pawn to knight 3 here, both sides fianchettoing. Castles, knight c3, pawn to queen 3, knight f3. So here, queen knight to queen 2, this is a King's Indian fianchetto with knight d7. Or we have here, this is the Yugoslav system, if black plays c5 here. Now to be honest, I find this quite tricky. So really what we're saying here, that that knight c6 might be the strongest move, but there's these other sidelines. So if these two are considered sidelines, knight d7 and c5, that's interesting. Maybe the Yugoslav system is something to have a look at. But often black will play knight c6, so King's Indian fianchetto with knight c6, which actually is given a credit to Pano as the Pano variation. Okay, so let's castle here, and black's got a few moves, bishop g4, a6, pawn to king 4 immediately. So this is Pano stuff. In fact, this one now gets Ullman credited for some reason. So these are the players that sometimes they played it a lot. So Ullman, Szabo, these guys played it a lot. So what else did we consider? A6 is a Pano variation. Oh, okay, so maybe knight c6 and a6 are really true Pano variations, to put those two moves together. Maybe rook b8, b5 later to try and generate some queenside counterplay. That would seem logical. In fact, that does seem to be the thrust of the variation given, where black's playing for b5, b4 maybe, or b takes c. So that's the Pano variation. Okay, what's the old Shigurin variation? If we rewind, so d4, knight f6, c4, d6, or the old Indian. So really, did it used to be considered the old Shigurin? I think knight c3 here. Is okay, let's have a look at another move. Bishop bishop to f5 is Janowski variation, Odin Janowski. c6, that's not got a name on my database. e5 is the Ukrainian variation, so offering, you know, maybe the trade of queens. So the Ukrainian variation. I think black's usually okay in that sort of thing here. Okay, let's go on to the Benoni defense. So d4, knight f6, c4, and now c5 is the most often used route to get to Benoni. Okay, the modern Benoni, so is d5. I think Kasparov almost put this out of business when he crushed Nunn after Nunn had just been written a book on the modern Benoni. So takes and then d6. Let's have a look at the Indo Benoni. So d4, knight f6, c4, c5, provoking that pawn forward again. So this looks as though it's exactly what we just done before. So g6. So now, say bishop d3 or knight f3 is Benoni classical, or bishop to f4. There's an Indo Benoni working in here, and I'm not sure where. What would you consider the Indo Benoni? Please let me know, if you're an opening guru, what the Indo Benoni is. There's a variation given here to try and distinguish it. So I think after d6, knight f3, pawn to king, knight f3, knight to queen 2. Oops. Let's go back, actually, just to make sure I'm getting this right. d5, e6, knight c3, takes d6. Oh, okay. Not e4, but knight f3 here. g6. So knight to d2. This is a very powerful maneuver, often to get pressure on d6. So say knight c4 here, and immediate bishop f4. Now apparently queen d2 is a strong move, a strong plan here. I think basically this was usually a nice win for white, but actually I'm not too sure why this is that dangerous for black. The game given was given as equal, so that's interesting. Let's have a look at the Benoni check system now. So if we rewind, d4, knight f6, c4. Okay, we've gone through this track, but here after d5, instead of e6, d6. So if knight c3, pawn to g6, black is delaying that e6, so we could consider this to be the check system of the Benoni. And there's a neo-check system as well. So after d5, instead of even black playing d6 or e6, just to play e5. So after knight c3, d6, e4, we have kind of almost check Benoni, but not quite. I guess that's what neo means. It's almost there, but not quite. Okay, so black's accepting that very locked pawn center. Let's go back now and have a look at the Benko gambit, or the Volga gambit as it used to be called after the river Volga. So d5, b5, and what's happened here with software? It's broken down, it's got confused. Oh dear. Let's go back, try and snap it out. It's not snapping out. Okay, maybe that's time for a break there. I'll upload what I've chatted about so far. I hope, as it's just a reference really, videos this on opening names, so you can explore in your own games different systems, knowing that at least they've been named at the very least, hopefully, which means something. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube so far? Thanks very much.